Right, so I've arrived out at my usual campsite. Now I don't know whether I'm going to have a campfire today, or whether I'm just going to do my little wood stove. I brought some food with me that I can eat cold, but I've also brought some oatmeal with me. Anybody that knows me will know I love my oatmeal. So, as you can hear, the ground is very wet. This was the last fire pit I had in here, and this is how a fire pit should be left. If you look at it, absolutely soaked. Nothing in there that's going to burn absolutely out. That's good. I've set up my little bench. I've put a tarp up because if you look up there, Mr. Grey Clouds is closing in on us fast, and it's supposed to be a very wet day today. So I have put up a shelter. Reason being, I can then sit under there in the dry. The pole keeps wanting to fall over for some reason. Who knows why? Right, so I can sit under here. Gets me out the wet. Got a pole up there just to give the roof somewhere to go. I can move this bench backwards a foot if I have to, if the rain gets really bad. Then my fire site is all the way over there, which is about 8 feet away. So I don't know whether I'm going to have a fire, because if I get a fire going, it's just going to rain on it and what have you. However, I do have my little stove with me today. As always, I will say it again in every one of my videos. This is my fire bucket. It used to say fire soak and stir on there, but as you can see, that's wore off. I do still have some snow, so I've filled the bucket up, and there's still some snow over there. So if I do have a proper campfire, at least I can put it out. If not, that snow will melt in there and it'll be ready for the next fire. So I'm going to fill that bucket right up before I leave, and then that saves me lugging water all the way up in here. This is actually quite a distance from a water source. It's about 200 meters, 300 meters from a reasonable water source, so that's a long way to go, and the water's heavy. Right, so fire safety is fire safety. I have a nice ring here that I know is not a problem, and I'm going to cook up some breakfast. Anybody that knows me knows I love these little Ohuhu stoves. And what I brought along today, let's grab a couple. Anybody that sees my other fire videos will know that I end up with lots of these little chunks of wood left. So I've brought along a bunch today, and I've split some up and put them in there. And I'm actually going to use these as fuel. I want to see how effective these are, and if they're any good, I'm going to cut up some to exact lengths and then use that as a fire. So my plan today is just to mess about a little bit actually, just come out in the forest and enjoy some time out here. Now I put some pieces in here. I do have a cotton ball in there. The area around here is soaked. I will say again, as I do in all of my videos, fire safety is number one. Although this is a little fire, one match can destroy a forest. The fire in here is more than capable of destroying a forest. So always know how you're going to put a fire out. I have a bucket of snow, which I showed you just now. So this is going to take a little while to warm up and get going. So let's see if I can get a spark to land on my cotton ball there. I'm trying to get right down in that gap. I have a cotton ball in there, which is in need of fluffing up apparently. Let's try that. There we go. Right. Normally I can get them on 1 or 2 strikes, but I'm trying to aim for a cotton ball that is buried down in here in amongst some of these bits. So I'll put that on there. Let's see if we can get this going. As I just said, I do have some very small pieces in there, and they're just made out of chunks like this. So I'm going to see if I can get this going in a reasonable fashion. I don't like splitting wood like that with my knife, because it is very easy to cut yourself. So anybody that's used one of these Ohuhu stoves will tell you, despite what you see in the videos, I don't like that one. Despite what you see in videos, where you see somebody spark one up and 2 minutes later they've got a great big fire going, that is not how they actually work. This is how they actually work. So what you need to do is to build a little fire first. If you look, I'm above the fire holes. That is deliberate, because this will burn down in there pretty good. In order to get the gasification process going, you need heat in this double wall, and that's what draws the air in, and that's what gives you the gasification. So let's let that get going. While that's getting going, I will split up some more wood over here. This has to be the smallest wood pile that I've ever cut up. Just going to move that over there. Where I'm standing is actually a little wet, so I'm going to move that over there, like so. It's absolutely soaked up in here today, which is another reason why I've come today. So, as always, I think that's a little bit overkill for putting a fire out for an Ohuhu stove, but either way, better safe than sorry. Yeah. The other reason that you can hear that, absolutely soaked. The other reason I'm having that fire in there is if I do decide to have a proper fire in a bit, once I've cooked up some breakfast, then there'll already be some hot ash in there. Come on, balance on there. I don't like cutting or trying to split wood close to my hand. Anybody that knows me will know why. A few years ago I was doing exactly that. I actually cut the top of my thumb off, and I had to walk a considerable distance with my finger like that to basically stop it bleeding everywhere. Thumbs bleed a lot, by the way. So looks like we are going to get going there. That looks pretty good. So, let's split up some more of these. Okay. If the knife slips and it's on the bench, it doesn't do the benching hard, because this thing I'm willing to bet yeah, you can actually shave with this. So this is not the knife you want to cut this off with. I can actually show you, I just did. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Yeah. So, as always, make sure your gear is handy. This time of the year, you'll notice I have two bear sprays. One out of the container, ready to go, and another one sitting right there. And the reason for that is all the bears are getting up. We have black bears around here, we've got grizzly bears around here, and they're all waking up and they're all hungry. So Dave is not on the menu. Generally speaking, they don't bother people. Way over that way, there's some forestry work going on. So I think we're pretty. Look how wet this is, though. Yeah, I think we're pretty good. There's a bunch of forestry work going on over. Most of the bear activity around this area is down that valley over there. There is a corridor through here that they use, but most of it's down over that valley, and that's where there's some guys working today, so that's good. I noticed them in there. They're doing some bridge repairs and all that kind of stuff, so that noise will help keep the wildlife away. Yeah. So we will let this warm up a little touch. Once the gasification gets going, I will bring you back and we can show you. Right, if you look around the edges there, you can start seeing the flames coming out of the little holes on the side. That's the wood gas coming up. See how little smoke there is coming off this? This is why I love these stoves. The other week I was here, anybody who watched my video would know that I got buzzed by a fire patrol helicopter. It was out in the area, and he came over literally 100 feet above the trees just checking me out, and he came around 3 or 4 times. Said, That's why the other reason I like these stoves. No smoke. Look at that. No smoke. Right, see the flames coming out the little holes on the side? That I know now is hot enough. I can get my pot on there and I can get some water going. Right, I will set that up, get that happening, and get back to you. Right, let's get this set up. And with oatmeal, you need very little water. Probably about that much. So what I will do, I'll put this on here. Always a good idea, don't put your pot on there first and then put water in it. Always do it this way. Put water in there, because believe it or not, well, that wasn't very smart, was it? The smart ones amongst you will notice that I did that wrong. And just to prove that I don't do any silly editing to make it look good, I wasn't thinking because I was too busy watching the forest. I forgot to put this on. Now, as you just saw, if you put that on there, it will go out. So let's try that again, shall we? Yeah, there's no clever editing in my videos, mate. I'm telling you, you see it as it is, mistakes and all. Yeah. So we will put that on there. I'm thinking, actually, yeah, I might need just another splash of water. Oatmeal is one of those things. You put in too much water, you end up with oatmeal soup. You don't put enough water in, you end up with stodge. I don't like stodge. Make sure that's all where I can get it. I do have, in my bag of goodies, I do have some more pieces. Somebody asked me whether you can top these fires up when they're running. Absolutely you can. So I've got nice gasification there now. So if you want to top them up, just take it off of there. By the way, probably don't use your fingers because that is hot. Yeah. So I can just chuck another couple of pieces in there, stick that back on. So yes, you can top them up while you're using them. Probably a good idea to use gloves. As I said in one of my other videos, my hands tend to be, they're a bit like asbestos. They're working hands, let's put it that way. And I've done this crap my entire life for 50 more, actually, when did I, so, oh my god. Good grief. 54 years ago was when I did my first solo camp trip. I think I'm getting old, mate. Let me tell you. Right, so I have another little bag of goodies here. That's a little bit more of that nice dry firewood in there. And like I say, this ash in here, and depending on what the weather does, I may have a proper campfire. I'm just going to see. But again, safety. Although these stoves are very good, don't put them on a piece of forest floor that's dry. I mean, this is soaked at the moment. This is absolutely soaked. But don't put them on a dry forest floor, because there are hot embers fall out the bottom of these things. Yeah. So always remember, when you light a fire, it's your responsibility. Yeah. This is my toasty fork, and anybody that knows me will know why I brought that with me. Yeah. So today we are having oatmeal surprise. Although this is early in the year, overnights, about half an hour that way. The overnight tonight is going to be -11, and 2 days from now it's going to be -14. So although it is, you know, I think it's only I think it's about -4 today, -3, -4, which for around here is actually quite warm. That's why I don't have a coat on. So But always, always, always make sure you've got some kind of shelter with you. That's why this actually lives inside this kit. And it, as I've shown people before, they say you can use these over and over again. I probably wouldn't, yeah, but always handy. On today's menu, we have oatmeal surprise. And the surprise is I have a green packet and a red packet. So my guess is that's going to be apple regular surprise. That water is actually boiling already. See the steam coming off it? I've actually got full on rolling boil, so that's how long it takes, you know. And we are literally, see that? We have a full on rolling boil. Again, no smoke, nice flames. These Ohuhu stoves, they are absolutely fantastic at this. Absolutely fantastic. Love these things. Because literally I can just pull a couple of sticks off of one of these trees and I'm good to go. So we will chuck that one in there. Now if I do have a fire, I'm going to use these for helping light my fire. The only thing with an Ohuhu stove is you don't have any temperature regulation other than doing what I'm doing, which is taking it on and off. That is how quick. Look at that. Can you hear that? That's how quick these stoves cook. They are absolutely amazing. But they also burn food very fast too, so keep an eye on it. Oh yeah, I think I got that water just about right. I don't know if I can get this on camera here, see if I can. About tipping my lunch all over the ground. Look at that. Say lunch, breakfast. Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's see if we got... couple more little chunkies. I cut those the other day. I was cutting up some firewood. As I've said in my other videos, I have access to a huge amount of firewood. And those are the little bits that end up as offcuts. So, my plan was to see if I could find a better use for them. And hey presto, they fit my Ohuhu stove. It's good. Yeah. As I say, when it comes to cooking, the only way you can really regulate the temperature is to take things on and off. Yeah. That's what's good. That is good. Oh, oh, oh. Oh yeah. And that is how quick and easy it is to make food. I know who did that. I'm just going to put that over there to cool down a bit. So I'm going to leave that running while I eat my breakfast, just to give you an idea of how long they will run on literally just a few chunks of wood, literally a few little offcuts. Woo. I can tell you now that's hot. Well, look at that. No smoke. A handful of twigs. Bits of offcut, sorry. Look at that. literally just bits. We'll see how long that runs for. The total amount of wood I put on there to cook that, if you had a piece of 2x4 and you cut it into, say, a 3-inch length and split it up, that's about how much wood I've put in there. So let's see how long it runs. In really wet and crappy weather, I quite often have in my pack, which is now behind me, I quite often have in my pack a couple of 2x4 offcuts, usually about 6 inches long. You get out in the middle of nowhere and the forest is wet, those 2 little 6-inch pieces of wood, let me tell you, you'll be glad you got them with you. Because once you get those burning, you can keep the fire going, that's not a problem. Yeah. Look how smoke free that is. All that wood gas is burning off. Yeah. But every now and again I can see little embers falling through the holes in the bottom. So never light them on a dry forest floor. I mean, this forest is soaked at the moment, so it wouldn't make any difference. But oh. And here comes the rain. So let's move everything I want dry in here. Let's say, always make sure your bear spray is really handy. That was good timing. So, let me just show you that. Look at that. That's all that's left in there. So I'm just going to move the camera. I know this is a GoPro and it doesn't really matter if it's out in the rain, but if it doesn't need to be in the rain, I won't put it in the rain. So let me just move it in here. Right. Welcome to the inside of my shelter. This is why I throw these shelters up. There's no fantastic bushcraft, magic, whatever happening here. This is just a cheap tarp. I think this was about 10 bucks, 10, 12 bucks, whatever. We got a store here called Prince's Autos, and they sell these things when they're on sale. They're like 10 bucks. It's a 10 by 12, this one, I think. It's no fancy bushcraft shelter with logs and a raised bed and all that other good crap that you see people doing. All that kind of stuff is good, but I'm not cutting down half a forest just to make a video. Simple as that. My Ohuhu stove has burnt through that piece of wood. Like I say, these were chunks. These were little wood offcuts, that's all they were. Little pieces, old slices of pallet wood actually, where I cut the ends off and I used the boards for lighting my bigger fires. These are the little chunks that I end up left over with, you know, and these normally either get thrown in a box or get slung out. But literally, I've just cooked breakfast on, let's have a look. Probably about half again as much wood as that I've just cooked breakfast on. I could have put it all in my hand, no problem whatsoever. So always handy to have stuff like this with you. And it now, I mean, if I was wanted to keep the Ohuhu stove going for any period of time, it's actually really easy to do. Make sure I got that handy. That's actually really easy to do. All I've got to do now, because there's already heat in there, is just add a few twigs and away I go. However, that's not the plan. The other thing I love about those stoves, look at that, I can just leave that now, do its thing, It's cooling down. It doesn't matter. It's stainless. It ain't going to rust. Leave it out there. Let it cool down. Everything will just turn to literally powder, to dust. They are an amazing stove. I've had that one for a few years now. When did I get that? About 6 years ago I think I got that. And I use it often, yeah. The other thing I use that Ohuhu stove for. These are handy, little plastic forky things. Yeah, fork them. Yeah, I call them sporks. Spoon on one end, fork on the other. Great. It's got a little knife edge on it, and I think these were like $2. So if I lose one, break one, whatever. You know, I've got a nice titanium handled one at home for my food jar thing that I have with me. But generally speaking, I don't worry too much about that. You get that. This is something that drives me nuts. When I go home, some people leave that on their pots. I don't. I like to clean it. So when I go home, I will clean this up and it will be as shiny as this for the next time I use it. Yeah. Yummy. That was good. That was some good food. It doesn't sound like our rain is coming to anything. I don't know if you can hear it. It's literally just little tiny pitter-patters. Yeah, next to nothing. Now it doesn't mean to say it's not going to turn into an all-out torrential downpour, which for around here is anything's possible. Tonight we're even possibility of snow here, so we shall see. This can turn over to snow. That's the only thing we're living where I do. The weather can change so fast here. If you're not prepared for it, I have everything that I need. I say this every time I do a video. I have every single thing I need to stay overnight if I have to. And always make sure that you can do that. Yeah. I don't think the rain's going to come to much. There is something nice about sitting under a cover though when it starts to rain, yeah. Especially when you're dry. Now if I was doing, if I had a tarp over here, I didn't put the tarp over there, but if I was having just that Ohuhu stove, I could have moved the bench and everything closer. I could have put the tarp right over the top, literally the height that is. I could have the Ohuhu stove under here. It is not going to affect this tarp whatsoever because there's not enough rising heat. Yeah, it's not going to affect it at all. Just don't do that over a proper campfire because it will catch fire. This stuff burns really fast. You do not want to set fire to one of these because I tell you, it burns fast and hot. Yeah. But I think that's pretty much done. So that is all that remains. As you can see though, if I threw some material in there, it wouldn't take much for that to just get going again because those are hot embers. That is actually chucking off some heat. I have used these before now. If I'm out camping, I'll just use this. Get a pot of water going. A full pot of water takes about 8 minutes. Like, so if I fill up that container, which is about 1 litre, just about, it takes about 8 minutes to fully roll in boil about 1 litre of water, which is not bad for a handful of sticks. And then all I tend to do with that is I fill up my hot water bottles and use that. So if I get up in the middle of the night, instead of having a fire, because in the summer I will not leave a normal campfire going overnight. Not going to happen. If it's deep snow, yes, that's kind of different. But in the summer, no, not chance in hell am I leaving a fire going overnight, because if the wind gets up, you wake up in a forest fire, and that's never good. So, but what you can do is you can leave your stove all set up, ready to go, cotton ball in there. All it takes is a spark. You saw how quickly it can get going, and hey presto, where you go. Yeah, not bad at all. So I've got to decide on whether I'm going to have a normal campfire now. Looking at the sky. What do you think, guys? What do you think? I can see over the big mountains, which are over there. I can see clear. I can see bright over there. And this here. There's very little rain. That's why it's important just to have a shelter. So I can stand under here. It doesn't matter if it absolutely hoofs it down there. It makes no difference because I can just stand under here. Job done. A little bit of shelter is absolutely vital. If you're setting up a campsite, say for instance I was going to have a campfire over there, what you can do is set up your tarp so it's completely over the top of the fire. Make sure you've got about 5 or 6 feet clearance, and then you can just set up your tarp so your campfire site is drying. It's drying out as you're looking at it. It's drying out. So everything else is raining, but it's not raining on your campfire site. So you can set to work, cutting up firewood, splitting firewood, and your fire site is not getting any wetter. Yeah, the forest around you is absolutely soaked, but your campsite, your fire site, is nice and dry. So you can then get your fire going. Once you've got your fire going, if you leave one of the edges of your tarp just loosely attached, let me show you what I mean. Right, so see how this front edge I've got pegged all the way along here on this front line. I have all this pegged out. Now if I was setting this up in the heavy rain, I would flip that tarp over so that it came over to here, right? So it's the same ridge line, just flip the tarp over. So now my fire site, I can get my fire going, everything's dry and all the rest of it. Once I've got my fire going and it's established, it is not going to make any bloody difference for the rain unless it's really hoofing it down. The fire will keep burning. So then what you do is you flip the tarp over, leave the ridge line, flip the tarp over, and then tie it up backwards like this. So basically you'd have it this way over your campfire to get everything dried out and get your fire going, and then when you're finished you flip it over on the ridge line so it's over this way, and you've got your shelter and you're a reasonable distance away from the fire. You don't have a fire underneath a flammable tarp, but you still have a good fire going, and you can now set up over here so you now have another dry space that you can sit in. And it's all about having dry space. Everything under here that I need to keep dry is dry. I've got plenty of clearance under here. I've got my hat sits on top of this post that I keep out here just to keep the rain off and stop it poking holes in it. But like I say, these tarps are $10, $12 when they're on sale. So if I damage one, whatever, I'll just go and get another one. It's not a $300 silicone tarp that everybody's going to be really upset about if it gets damaged. This is just a cheap tarp. So I'm going to put this away for a second, stop rabbiting, sit down, decide on whether I'm going to have a proper fire or not, and then go from there. Right, so I have made a decision. I'm not going to have a proper campfire today. So this brings me back to a subject of the food that you can eat. I see these people making these bushcraft videos, and they go out and they got these big skillets and they're cooking up onions and potatoes and steaks and all the rest of it. But if you can't light a fire, say now it was absolutely pissing down with rain and I couldn't light a fire, now what? Yeah, my ever trusty sausage rolls are already pre-cooked. They are very good. So with a fire, without a fire, I can still eat these. They do taste way better cooked on a fire, I can tell you. They really do. However, unfortunately, today it's not a lot I can do better. The wood's very wet. It's going to be very smoky. I don't like smoky fires. And I don't know if you can hear the rain, but it is actually picking up a touch. So today I walked, by the time I get back, what are we going to be? At 11 kilometres, I guess. Round trip, maybe 12, just under. So I could cook breakfast. But I enjoy the walk through the forest. I do a lot of trail maintenance, a lot of trail clearing. And this is a trail that I do several times a year up through this way. Nobody ever uses this trail anymore. It's pretty much abandoned. Nobody ever uses it. So I come out here just to help clean up all the deadfall off the area. And that was my main reason for coming today. But I'm going to sit and enjoy my sausage rolls. I'm not going to bore you to death with, hey look, here's me having my sausage rolls. So I'm going to eat these, enjoy them. But this is why I bring these as food, because hot or cold, with or without a fire, it doesn't matter, I can eat them. Right, make sure the fire is all good. You can see I put some snow in there. I didn't have a proper fire today, just the Ohuhu stove. It's absolutely stone cold, soaked down. There's a little bit of snow left in there. Campsite is all cleaned up. This is what it should look like when you've left. Now, what I did is, because there's a pile of snow over there, next time I come here, chances are that snow ain't going to be there. So, and water up here, like I say, I've got to lug it a long way. So what I've done is I filled my bucket right up. That does two things. It helps clean my pot out that I just used to make my oatmeal, and I filled the bucket with snow, because by the time this melts, that'll put probably that much water in there, I guess, because this is quite wet snow. So that way, that's that amount of water I don't have to lug up the hill. As I've mentioned in the past, that stick, always leave a stick. If you're going to leave a bucket out in somewhere like this with water in it, always make sure you put a stick in it like that, because if wildlife jumps in there to get a drink, they can smell the water, they'll jump in there, they can't get out, they'll drown. So like squirrels or whatever fall in there, they can't get out, they will die. So put a stick in it like that, so if they get in there, they can just climb up the stick and get out. Yeah, but next time I come, I will have probably a third to half a bucket of water that I don't have to lug up a big hill. So that's good. Yeah. Campfire is all tidied up. Oh, campsite, sorry, is all tidied up. The Ohuhu stove's all cooled down and put away. Now, I've shown people in the past here, you'll see on any of my sites, I have the, what's names here, I'll put twigs and branches and that up in trees like that. That keeps them up out the snow. Just make sure there's nothing on my coat hook, nothing left behind. No, I'm going to head out of here in a minute. I'm just going to show you this. But any decent sized logs that I get, I put up in the trees like this. I stand them up so that they're out the snow. So if we do get heavy snow and I'm out here, I can still find firewood. It's up out the snow. I know where it is. It's already dried out. My sawhorse is down here. I do leave the piece of cord for my sawhorse here. That goes on there. That's what I use for cutting up my timber. If I'm cutting up firewood, you just tie this to the tree, put your piece of wood across here. You can put your foot on it. Hey presto, job done. Way easier than busting knees and all that other crap I see people doing. So there we go. This is my back end of nowhere campsite, and I'm packing up and heading out. It was raining earlier, and now the sun is just starting to poke through, but they did forecast a lot of rain for this afternoon. Mid-afternoon we're supposed to get most of the rain, and then it's turning over to snow. So I do not want to be walking out of here in wet snow. Like I say, I've got about 5-6 kilometers to go back, and some of it down in the bottom of the valley is still frozen solid as ice. And guess who didn't bring his ice spikes with him today? Yeah, kind of idiot would have forgotten his ice spikes. They're in the car. Good place for them, eh? Right, so I'm out of here. Thank you very much for coming along, and that's how you cook breakfast on an Ohuhu stove. They're absolutely insanely good. If you haven't got one, get one. Chuck it in your pack. They weigh next to nothing, and I can tell you now, they are so bloody handy and so easy to use, and smoke free, and they're cheap. I think when I bought that one, it was like 22 bucks, something like that. Right, thanks for coming along. Off I go.